Community relations. Moving beyond the dynamic of brands and consumers, we move towards stakeholders of the very communities that exist around the company or organization. Later, this chapter will elaborate on the nuances of various communities, their importance, philosophy, and the role of the companies in their interaction. And it will also focus on the problems that may happen if the businesses would disregard their relationship with their communities. What is community relations? Community relations is an excellent means of attracting new customers and growing your business, or it is for a company to be successful, and it must develop a relationship with the community in which it operates. And it can be also the various ways in which a business establishes a meaningful and mutually helpful relationship with its communities, in the relationship that the company or organization has with the people who live in the area in which it operates. And nowadays, large companies, entrepreneurs, startups, and established small businesses all have the ability to create impactful community relations programs. Community relations can really be a fun part of any business. Let's say, for example, Milo Company. So they travel and meet the families of children. They volunteer to provide books for children. And another was the Milo Sports Program. It was for students to go beyond physical development. Another one, we have the Colgate Company, the BSBF, or the Bright Smiles Bright Future program of Colgate. They believe that every children and their family have a right to a lifetime of healthy smiles, to provide and learnings to kids for powerful habits like brushing twice a day and to connect underserved communities to oral health. Next, we also have the McDonald's. They implement the packaging twice and waste. It was an accelerating solutions that reduce waste while also transitioning to more sustainable packaging and toy materials. It was a strategy to help and keep the communities clean, protect the planet for future generations, and support long-term business resilience. So community relations are the actions of your company does to cultivate goodwill in the community or could benefit to the community. It was to try to give back to the community that you create. And I believe that it was a relationship between an organization and the community. So establishing a community relations program gives a company of any size and its employees a proactive way to engage with the community that matters most to them. I believe that community relations is about consistently showing up and standing up for a community that needs support.
Psychological contract and the community. In our previous discussion, we already knew that psychological contract refers to the relationship between an employer and its employees with an unwritten set of expectations, mutual beliefs, and perceptions between them. Apart from the regular psychological contract, there are also emotionally stronger attachments, which are long-term contracts. These contracts could specify growth opportunities in the future in exchange for long-term commitments by the employee. This type of relationship does not only exist within the confines of the company, but as well as outside of it. The psychological contract that exists with companies and communities mimics the same characteristics as those with the relationship between companies to employees and companies to customers. A community has a general expectation that business or company will act in the best interest of that community. Examples. First, meeting the expectation. The tangible expectations of the community include having their opinions on certain issues heard as well as acted upon. Second, satisfy the needs and wants. Consumers in the community satisfy their needs, wants through purchasing goods and services for consumption purposes. Third, community partner. Just by simply doing the right thing, It just makes sense that a company would want to work to improve the community in which and where the employee lives. Psychological contracts are motivating to the employees and lead to positivity in the organization. They reinforce the cultural and organizational values of the employees and instill teamwork. But aside from its advantages, there are also problems that may occur. Since there are unwritten rules in psychological contract, fulfilling and not fulfilling both can be tricky. On the other hand, if an employee or the community does not fulfill the contract, the same negativity will be there from the employer. The company will develop a negative attitude towards the community, which will be evident in various things. The bottom line here is that companies are also expected to meet the expectations of the communities around them. The bilateral and communal relationship also works both ways, where both parties have set of needs and wants which adds to their expected behavior from the other.
The community as gatekeepers. The role of the company is a large one in the success factor of a company. Communities are members of a collective that share a common or shared identity, while each member has their own perspectives and interests. Amalgamation of these views culminates in the overall expectation of the community. Ideals: peaceful, safe living space, environment free from pollution, and job opportunities. In a large perspective, government or state power can be felt being one of the primary gatekeepers of their vicinity with the implementation of law and order, among other examples. Community members have the power. We as members of the community have the right to oppose a business or company that we know does not bring good to our community or environment. Communities can go against and stop a company from conducting its business within their space. Examples of this is in the Philippines. Is the challenge for telecommunications companies to put up a cellular sites within towns, since many are scared of the long-term health effects due to having a cellular site near their living space. Other example, malls that often dominate local wet and dry markets that will cause many community members to lose their livelihoods as sellers and middlemen. So, there are many companies or businesses that are against our community that are not immediately acted upon. Sometimes there are people who protest because they know what a company has violated in their area. We as members of the community have duties and rights in our area. It is our duty to be responsible in all our areas, and we have the right to refuse activities that are being built that we know will destroy or can harm our community. These stances show the power of communities and what companies should never overlook.
A brief history of community engagement. Before the 80s, companies were contented with dole-outs as their primary tool for community engagement. Many in the industry have coined the term balloons and t-shirts because of how these projects conducted. Frequently, the strategy is simple and direct. Community engagements are limited merely donations. Engagement has occurred throughout history in various forms. For example, many indigenous communities emphasize democratic engagement practices with their communities through clan systems. The concept became more catalyzing in the 1960s to 1970 during civic engagement movement. During the civic engagement movement, when individuals encouraged to actively engage with their communities and promote democracy by expanding citizen participation in problem solving and broadening access to social and political capital. After the 1980s, there was a shift in how community engage is also done because of the emergence of new actors and ways of communicating with the community. During the 80s, what was in the vogue were neoliberal ethos of free market where government intrusion is frowned upon. As abbreviation TINA, there is no alternatives.
would suggest as a reference to the rise of the free market, the way companies are being run are also on track towards the same neoliberal evolution and lack of other substitutes. During this era, companies were on the move and have grown steadily in their involvement with communities. Despite the cuts, non-profit organizations were flourishing and growing, and in the mid-90s, it grew exponentially and demand more funding from companies compounded on their worries. The Philippines was a pioneer in this regard with the establishment of the Philippine Business for Social Progress that was established in 1970 with the member coming from the top 50 corporation in the Philippines. Current Chairman Manny V. Pangilinan, Vice Chairman Ramon R. Del Rosario Jr., President Armin A. Luistro FSC. This organization aimed to aid communities with projects to alleviate poverty in the Philippines. How can community benefits to this? Benefits experienced from the movement spark demands for government, higher education, healthcare, and others to engage. Examples: schools, hospitals, police or fire departments, etc. The purpose of community engagement, it promotes sustainable decisions by recognizing and communicating the needs and interests of all participants, including decision makers. This increases acceptance of decisions and community commitment to outcomes as local knowledge from diverse groups shapes and creates inclusive, effective solutions. Community engagement works as a way to establish trust within a municipality. When residents see their government actively seeking out citizen participation, they feel heard and understand that their voices matter.
Why is there a need to be involved? At first, companies did not see the importance of community involvement in the company's growth. Ritualistic, tokenistic, and temporary, this is how companies initially saw community relations. It was during the 90s where community relations have become more trendy for companies. With the advent of information technology and globalization, consumers are aware and conscious of what companies and brands' values are. Fueling this trend further were non-profit organizations and advocacy groups fanning the flames, asking companies to be accountable and responsible for their actions that directly affect communities, environment, and public safety. Technology became a huge part of this push, and slowly, companies had no choice but to accept the new norm, and this is the birth of the socially responsible corporation.
Marketing the goods. Why do businesses promote goods? So, businesses promote goods to be acknowledged by consumers, and with the aid of different types of advertising, businesses reach target markets and persuade other consumers that are unlikely to purchase goods and services. Later on, companies saw the opportunity of doing good and jumped on the opportunity to maximize it to their benefit. They serve as a precursor for the creation of two marketing strategies that raise the good in each company. So they are called cost marketing and social marketing. Cost marketing is an approach in which a profit and non-profit organization collaborate and create campaigns that help drive profits and bring social change. It also carries corporate social responsibility and activist messages in its marketing campaigns. This strategy allows a company to improve its brand image, stand out among competitors, change people's behavior, and establish strong connections with communities. Some examples are shown in the picture, and promoting a fundraising event for a cancer research organization, or specifically fundraising event for breast cancer patients. Social marketing. Social marketing is designed to create social change, uses traditional marketing techniques, and raises awareness of a given problem or cause, and it aims to convince an audience to change their behaviors. Social marketing is commonly used for environmental causes, activism, or promoting exercise and healthy eating. Some specific examples are anti-deforestation, anti-drug, anti-smoking, or anti-bullying.
Strategies for community relations. What comes in your mind if I heard strategy? Strategy is a plan of action or policy designed to achieve a major or overall aim. Community relations strategy. It is about how you interact with other organizations in your area. 4 ways to build your community relations strategy. 1. Align initiatives with your mission statement. Think about the purpose of your company, who its audience is, and what matters to the people who purchase your product or service. It isn't about giving away your product for free. It's about connecting with people in your community. Number 2, define what community means to your business. Community has different meanings depending on the size of your company. In other words, a small business and an international company have different communities. Number 3, choose causes to unite, not divide. In American current political climate, everyone has something to say and it's not always for the better. Be careful when considering a controversial cause. As a result, it will backfire and cause crisis. Number 4, choose your implementation. Community relation isn't one-size-fits-all practice. After a company has defined their goals for community relations, the next step is to decide how to implement any programs. Typical initiatives include employee volunteer time, monetary donations, partnerships with their community organizations, and kind of donations.
There are various of communities that a company must deal with, and it should be known that they have different sets of expectations that the company must meet and exceed. The first type of communities around the corporation is the fence line community. These are the communities that live near the site of the company. They are one of the first people to be impacted by the operations and should be one of the priorities of the company. For example, in road widening, the properties or the houses near the road that is involved will be the priority of the company. The second one is the site community. This is the town or city the company is operating in. They are one of the important community pillars around the company because local governments have the power to allow or stop companies from operating if it violates the interest of the constituents. Laws, policies, and ordinances should be followed by the company at all times and maintain a good working relationship with its leaders. Third is the interest community. These are communities that are made up of individuals that share a common intent or goal. Common interest communities share mores and norms that are parts of advocacies that they champion. Examples of these are environmental organizations and other groups that uphold a specific interest. Fourth is the impact community. This describes the communities that are outside the geographic location of the company but are also affected by its operations. A good example of this is remote warehouses where goods are dropped off inside the company's control and management. The fifth one is the employee community. It pertains to the communities of the employees. This is to ensure the welfare of employees and their relations with their communities. The last type of communities around the corporation is cyber community. One of the fastest growing communities of cyber community is a virtual community. This pertains to internet users, including social media and other platforms that are engaged with the brand. Although, unlike the communities discussed, it is more decentralized and lacks of hierarchy that exists in other communities. However, because of this, the complexity of managing cyber communities fall into the hands of social media managers and forum moderators that can control and influence the flow of information and interaction between users.